Hey, what's up everyone? John here. Sorry for missing last week's episode. Life just kinda got in the way. But we're here now. So welcome back to another edition of No Cap, my weekly review and reaction to The Falcon and the Winter Soldier. This week, we are talking the penultimate episode 5, Truth. This was definitely an interesting episode. We got action. We got character development. We got montages, but perhaps most surprisingly, we got Julia Louis-Dreyfus? No shortage of things to get into before we get to the finale. So let's get right into it. We could have been a team. The opening. So episode 4 ended with John Walker, who's at this point taken the super soldier serum, brutally killing the Flag Smasher Nico. After a battle with Carly and the Flag Smashers left Walker's best friend and partner, Lamar Hoskins, dead. This series thus far has been showing us that John Walker is unstable. He's been rubbing at his forehead, he's been twitching, and he's had fits of rage. Something's just clearly off about him. And the way these opening shots are filmed kind of support that. We get these extreme shaky cam close-ups, similar to what we've seen in the other darker moments of the show. And much like episode 4, it was used very well here. It really showcased his confusion and grief and his rage. It's almost as if his body is still getting used to the serum, though he just experienced and caused a hell of a whole lot of trauma. So that's probably part of it. Sam and Bucky approached John because, again, he just murdered a guy. Now, what I found very interesting is that John was already pulling out the excuses. I killed him because I had to. He killed Lamar. And it's like, yo, we saw who did it, and it wasn't him. So Sam tries to talk him down, but as soon as he mentions handing over the shield, John just loses it. Then we go into this amazing fight between Sam, Bucky, and John Walker. It's very reminiscent of Captain America and Bucky Barnes fighting Iron Man in Civil War. And just like that fight, this fight was brutal, especially between Bucky and John. We see that swing that Bucky takes where he just knocks down a steel beam, and it's clearly personal. John made a point in episode 4 to call out Bucky's use of the serum, and Bucky just hasn't liked John from the jump, even calling him a crazy at one point. And John goes back to passing the buck,
no pun intended,
by asking, "Why are you making me do this?" Like, yo, what kind of rationale is that? You initiated all of this tension and fighting, but you're blaming whatever might happen on someone else? Yo, this motherfucker a cop. We see more of that brutality when John knocks Bucky out, and then he rips Falcon's wings off while screaming, "I am Captain America," right before he's about to hit Sam with the same move that just killed Nico. Ultimately, the fight comes to an end with our heroes literally breaking John's arm to get the shield back, and then knocking him the out. Yo, they homeboy up. And damn, how heartbreaking was it to see Sam try and wipe the blood off of the shield. Seriously though, shout outs to all the fight choreographers and coordinators, and the stunt people, and everyone who worked on filming this scene, because it was just, yeah, holy shit, what an awesome sequence. I've said it once, I'll say it again. The best fights are the ones that are the most personal. I mentioned earlier, this felt very much in the vein of Captain America Civil War. It was just a very beautiful opening. Taking the bench. So after the Captain America murdered a guy fiasco, the government has taken over all operations, investigations, military words. And our heroes go their separate ways. Zemo and Bucky share a scene which may have been a little melodramatic, but I personally really enjoyed. Zemo is visiting this Sokovian memorial site, and he and Bucky have this interesting exchange. First, he says he's decided not to kill Bucky. What? I guess that's his weird way of saying he likes Bucky, like as a person. Then he goes on about how there's only one way to stop Carly, and that he doesn't think Sam would do it, but he does think Bucky would do it, and that he needs to do it. But Bucky's basically like, look, we'll do it our own way. And then makes this dramatic move of putting a gun to Zemo's face and pulling the trigger, only to reveal that the gun was empty and all of the bullets were in his left hand. And then the Dora Milaje show up. I did enjoy how Zemo said he crossed his own name out of Bucky's notebook, though I'm not sure if his name was actually in that notebook or if he was just being facetious. But it seemed like they genuinely made amends. We hear Zemo is going to the raft It's basically a prison for superpowered people. We actually saw it in Captain America Civil War. But seeing as how all of those Avengers managed to escape, something tells me Zemo won't be locked up for too long. Io basically tells Bucky to stay out of Wakanda for a while, which makes me think we'll see Bucky in Wakanda very soon. One thing I'll say about this scene is that Wakanda supplying goods to various Avengers is starting to feel convenient. Now, it's not entirely implausible because of Bucky's relationship with the Wakandans, but depending on what was in that briefcase, which I'm like 99.99999
2 hours later.
99% sure that is a new suit. It's just kind of difficult for me to wrap my mind around the fact that they would just have an extra set of wings laying around. But there wasn't a really clear passing of time, so maybe it's not too out there for them to have been able to build this type of suit. I just hope it's not something we see over and over and over. Joaquin Torres popped up in this episode. Always happy to see some familia in the building. What was really cool is just as Sam is leaving this crime scene in, I think it's supposed to be Prague, Sam tells Joaquin to keep the wings. Remember, in the Sam Wilson Captain America comics, Joaquin Torres actually does take up the mantle of the Falcon. So maybe we'll see him don the wings sooner rather than later? God, I sure hope so. We see another fantastic scene with Isaiah Bradley and Sam Wilson. They spend a lot of time talking about Isaiah's history as Sam is struggling once again with having the shield. And it's so sad because you can really see how time and history has just broken Isaiah. He lost his wife, he lost all his friends, he lost any semblance of a normal life, and he'd rather stay dead than be exposed to the world. I'm just gonna throw this out there. Can we just give Carl Lumley an Emmy? He's so powerful anytime he's on screen. You can really feel his pain. So good. After Sam goes home, he's all in on fixing his parents' boat. We even get a good fixin' stuff up montage. Bucky joins Sam and Nola and seems awfully flirtatious with Sam's sister, Sarah. I'm unapologetic in saying this, I ship them all day. We also get a very quick moment where Bucky tells Sam Zemo says there's only one way to stop Carly. And that looks like it really bothers Sam. Because remember, he doesn't disagree with what Carly and the Flag Smashers are fighting for. He just doesn't like how they're fighting. What the hell is Sharon Carter up to? Okay, so Sharon seems to be up to some real shady but I refuse to believe that she is actually a villain. But let's talk about it. I'm pretty certain she called up Batroc, who is played by GSP, of course. And the reason I say that is because he was screaming in French. And it seems like she's linking him up with the Flag Smashers. And it's clear when she says, I can pay you double this time, that she's hired him before. Maybe for what we saw in the first episode? But why? Is Sharon using him to get to the Flag Smashers? Because if she is working for the Power Broker and they want Carly dead, well, having Batroc and his highly skilled team wouldn't be a bad way of getting some extra muscle. But I'm not ruling out that she is actually deep undercover for some sort of US government agency. Maybe she's trying to earn her way back into the US. I'm not sure, but I just can't fathom that she's gone this rogue. But I guess we'll just have to wait and see. The Flag Smashers. So in episode 4, they lose all of their doses of the serum, which I guess they wanted to give to kids? Something like that? And both the US government and the Power Broker are after them. So now they want to make an example. And Carly is willing to go to some extremes. Like I mentioned a short while ago, Batroc is now partnered with the Flag Smashers, who are now in New York City, arming them with some pretty heavy weaponry. The Flag Smasher Dovich is like, so we're working with criminals now? And he's also the same guy who was a little freaked out when Carly decided to blow up a building with people still in it. So part of me thinks he might have a little bit of a change of heart halfway through this final battle. So Carly seems fully ready and willing to go full terrorist to stop the GRC, or Global Repatriation Council, from voting on the Patch Act, which would essentially send millions of refugees back to their countries of origin. Honestly, I think this is as much as we're gonna get out of their motives, especially because their rumored outbreak-related storyline was cut out, leaving the creators to salvage what they could. But I guess we'll see. Tough love. Sam and Bucky finally have this one-on-one where they seem to understand each other a little bit better. I appreciate how Bucky acknowledged that neither he or Steve considered what it would be like for a black man to receive the shield. I mean, how could they? How could they possibly know? Also, it seems that Bucky and Steve did indeed have a conversation about who would receive the shield next, prior to Steve going back in time. I thought that was a cool little addition to the canon. Sam helps Bucky work through some of his own demons, telling him to do the work. Man, Sam is such a good guy. I love his character arc. They finally come to their own amends, though not really admitting that they're friends or partners yet. And finally, we get a Captain America training montage. This episode sure did love its montages. We saw some pretty cool moves, some cool flips and kicks and stuff. But what I loved most was hearing Henry Jackman's Captain America theme. It just crescendoed through the entire scene. It was really impactful hearing it for Sam. I am Captain America. Okay, so John Walker. I want to start out by shouting out actor Wyatt Russell, who has been fantastic in this series. I don't know who needs to hear it at this point, but he is not his character. He is not John Walker. So no one should be sending him real life hate. But the way he's played John's descent from nervous optimism to this real dark place has been incredible. He has these subtle nuances, such as the twitches and the migraine type behavior that I mentioned earlier in this episode. So I just want to go ahead and give him his flowers now. Because you almost feel bad for John. Almost. Because, I mean, he murdered a man in cold blood. But it's like, he really believes that he was just doing his job. And there's something to be said about military radicalization. John mentions how he only ever did what they, the government, asked of him, and how he did it well, or how they made him. Now, I'm not sure, but he seemed like he was kind of trying to convince himself that he actually killed Lamar's killer. But either way, it's a lie, and he's telling it to everyone else, including Lamar's family. By the time he loses the mantle as Cap and is stripped of his benefits and ranks, he looks just emotionally dead. Like, I think he's off the deep end at this point. And he says, "I am Captain America," several times in this episode. And maybe this is another example of him just trying to convince himself. Because in the post-credit scene, yep, there is a post-credit scene in this episode, we see him making a new shield. So this fool is gonna try to be Captain America whether we want it or not. And it's unclear if he'll actually take up the name US Agent, but the show definitely does seem to be setting up that character. Val. Julia? Yes, we are introduced to Contessa Valentina Allegra de Fontaine, or simply Val, played by TV legend Julia Louis-Dreyfus. So who is Val? What is she doing here? How does she know John took the serum? And what does she want? Those are all of my questions, but I can only speculate at this point. Is she the power broker? I mean, maybe. I just wouldn't see the point in throwing everyone off by using male pronouns, or with introducing Val and not already revealing her to be this, like, big bad. Is she working for the power broker? Again, maybe. She alluded that John would be valuable to some people after taking the serum. That doesn't necessarily mean the power broker. There's been a lot of talk about the Thunderbolts. Maybe she's a Nick Fury type, rounding up this ragtag group of anti-heroes, like in a Suicide Squad style team up. She gives them a blank business card. Somebody get a black light! I don't really know much about this character, other than she was a pretty big part of the Secret Invasion storyline, which we will see on Disney Plus, so maybe this is the setup for that. I'll add a link or two in the description so that we can both be a little more educated on this person. This episode was directed by Carrie Scoglin, written by Delon Moussan, with music by Henry Jackman. Whew! Lots to unpack, right? Like I said, this was an interesting episode. You'd normally expect a penultimate episode to really unpack the plot some more, but instead we got this really character-driven episode. And honestly, I'm not entirely mad at it. I love getting more and more character development, but it does make me worry about the pacing of the finale. But just like WandaVision, this is also setting up what's to come. So we'll just have to wait and see. Those were my thoughts. Now, I'd love to hear yours. Drop your thoughts and theories in the comment section below. Thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, please hit the subscribe button. Don't forget to hit that thumbs up. And also, you can follow me on Instagram, Twitter, and Twitch. All right, see you next time.